Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, hello, and welcome to Friday, March 9th, the day after this horrific shooting in Oakland at Western Psychiatric. I'm trying to update you now, and I'm a little confused since both newspapers, the PG and the Tribune Review, are reporting different facts. So one of them is wrong. Unless the Tribune Review is suggesting this is for the identity of the man killed, not the shooter, the victim. His name, he has been identified as Michael Schaub. The Post-Gazette says he lives in Edgewood. The Tribune Review says he is a native of Greensburg. Now, my guess is maybe his family lives in Greensburg. He was raised in Greensburg, and he now lives in Edgewood, but for that discrepancy. But this news was released in the about in the last hour, and which is why I'm sharing it with you. Michael Schaub was just 25 years old. He worked in the geriatric unit at Western Psychiatric, which is located on the 7th floor. His mother, who was watching, as many of us were, coverage of the event as it unfolded yesterday afternoon and evening, assumed, although she hadn't heard from him, that he was okay because we were being told that the incident was confined to the first and second floors, and her son worked on the 7th floor. But her doorbell rang last night, and it was a state trooper there to inform her that, in fact, her son was dead. Now, what makes this, a 25-year-old man being killed senselessly like that is horrific enough, but what makes this just almost, unbearable, I'm not going to say almost unbearable, makes it unbearable to me, is that Michael Schaub's mother, Nancy, told the trooper that her only other child, her daughter was named Nancy, was killed 2 years ago at the age of 26. Her daughter is killed at 26. 2 years later, her son is murdered at 25. That is unbearable. Her daughter was killed in a domestic dispute. The shooter remains unidentified. Well, these things, I have nothing to say. I don't know what to say. How many how many of these senseless events have we had to swallow? And, you know, it used to be not too long ago, I suspect, but it seems forever ago, that when these things happened, the inevitable talk the next day on programs such as this would be about gun control. No more. I'm done. That horse left the barn a long, long time ago. There is news also that the two guns that the shooter had were not registered to him. So I have nothing. I mean, I have nothing to say. We can let everybody have a gun and make it impossible to walk into any building without going through metal detectors and being frisked. I guess that's what we've decided we'll do. But that's it. So if anybody has anything that they do want to say, feel free. My heart goes out to this poor woman who has now lost her only surviving child. And other than that, since we hear that everybody else is expected to make a full recovery, I have nothing to say. Watching the coverage yesterday, I was flipping around checking out all three local stations. And I just have to say this about one station, that clearly a memo went out long ago, and all the reporters and anchors and producers adhere to it, as management must have told them they will do at great, or else. And I just want to say that as a viewer, it is driving me insane. And that is WPXI's need to preface almost every intro to every reporter, every intro to every story, either as, we were the first to be there, our reporter, blah, blah, the first on the scene, or we, where you heard it here first, we were the first. You won't hear this anywhere else. Hear us first. And that seems to be, I mean, if you were to walk away with anything left in your head from any newscast there, that's what you hear. And let's leave aside the fact that the constancy of, in one newscast, hearing that maybe 6-7 times in a show begins to sound like sort of like braggadocio. I mean, it begins to sound really impolite. It begins to sound like, didn't your mother ever tell you? Just, okay, fine, you were first. Maybe in once a show you could say we were first on the scene. But the fact of the matter is if you look at their coverage as opposed to the coverage of the other stations, there is you can't tell they were first. They all have the same stuff, the same general footage. Things like that is a result of some consultant telling them, you want to drive home to your audience that they need to turn here if they want to be up on the news. And so that's what it's about. Fine, I get that. But the repetition of this, we were here first, because that's what it starts to sound like. It sounds childish. First of all, I don't give a damn. The viewer doesn't give a damn. I remember when I was working at WTAE television, how during the news, the brain trust, the news director, the assistant news director, the executive producer, they would sit in front of a bank of cameras that had all the newscasts on. So I'm sitting there at 4, they're watching 4, they're watching 2, they're watching 11, and they're backing and forthing, and oh my God, the pats on the back when 4 would be 2 seconds ahead of 2 on one story, and then the angst when 11 was 3 minutes ahead on. And I remember looking at them once, going through as I was standing in the doorway, and I looked at all these guys and I said, hey, nobody is sitting at home with 3 television sets on and saying, oh my God, 4 was behind 2 by 30 seconds. It doesn't matter to them. Jeez. The infantile nature of the news business sometimes, this first stuff, is, and the papers are like that too. But it's a little less obvious with newspapers. There's that ad on television that's running incessantly now too for is it a kind of a cell phone or something? 4G as opposed to 3G or something, where they say, somebody says, oh, did you hear that blah, blah, blah? And somebody says, oh, that's so 12 seconds ago. It's the same kind of thing. Oh, like that's going to make a big difference to me, that you're 6 seconds ahead of me in having a piece of useless information. Unless the information is that there is something falling from the sky that is going to hit right where you're standing, I don't really need to be told anything that quickly. Oh. And while I'm doing a little rant, may I say this? What is it with people who can't adjust to this crazy winter in terms of the clothes they wear? So that while it does make sense on Monday to perhaps be wearing shorts and a T-shirt, it doesn't make sense today to be wearing shorts and a T-shirt. And there's some people who simply can't. I'm seeing so many people looking so cold because they decided, I don't know what, 2 weeks ago, that spring was here. And any information to the contrary, including their blue fingers and their chattering teeth, is to be ignored. It's just stupid. Okay, I'm done. Those were my. Oh God, my headphone. I'm getting. Is the sound okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, it sure isn't in my head. All right. I always love to read letters to the editor, but I have to admit it is rare when any of them are fun to read or clever anymore. They're all so, I mean, it's just the same old. So I got to give a shout out to a gentleman named Rob Biller. If anybody knows him, tell him, thanks, Rob. Well done. You don't even have to agree with him to appreciate that he wrote a letter with some flair. Rob Biller writing from Fombelle? Where's Fombelle? Like near Zelienople. Here is his letter to the Post-Gazette today. I think it deserves wider dissemination. My church, the Roman Catholic Church, is arguably the most corrupt organization in the history of mankind. But nitpicking aside, I love it. Now, right there, he had me. I thought, I love this, because this is somebody who is obviously capable of keeping more than one thought in his head at the same time. This is somebody who can make a statement like that. I think my church is probably the most corrupt, and I probably could argue that, first of all, because the Catholic Church is the most successful institution in the history of mankind, having existed for close to 2,000 years, if not 2,000 years now. I don't know when it was technically created. But no, it wouldn't be, because Jesus was still alive at the age of 12. But right away, I appreciate that. He surprises you by saying it. You think you're about to read a screed, and instead you get this fact that he loves his church. Okay, so he says, arguably the most corrupt organization in the history of mankind, but nitpicking aside, which is a cute line, I love it. And now that I'm done being complimentary, let's take the gloves off. And then he really goes for it. How can the men who think they represent and lead our church have the temerity to ever utter any pronouncement concerning anything feminine when they, the Catholic hierarchy, deem women unfit to be priests or even deacons? Wake up! It's 2012. Women are at least equal to men. No longer will astute reasoning like, Jesus was a man, so women can't be priests, flummox the flock when the flock is fleeing. And speaking of the flock, it owes its vitality to women. If my mother didn't force me and my wife didn't encourage me, I'd be a black missing sheep every Sunday. Please quit trying to destroy my church and end the misogyny. The Roman Catholic Church will survive in America only if its distaff members are treated as equals. And remember, pious costumed ones, when I stand before my Maker and discover he is really a she, I won't be the only one saying, saying, duh. Well done, Rob. Just because you jerked us around a little bit, and it's got some flair. I appreciate it, and it helps that I agreed with you, too. Somebody tweeted that since there's more movies coming here to be filmed and more stars coming our way in just a month or so, that we should be known not as Hollywood East, but and not as Tinseltown, because that's taken. Tinseltown is taken, so we should be known as Yinseltown.
Oh my God.
Not good?
Not good.
Not good?
I don't think so.
No, okay. We'll let that go. I haven't heard yins come out of somebody's mouth in a long time until this week when I was at Costco. And a woman was walking by another woman, and she said something about, I'll see yins and blah, 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 blah. And the other woman said back, yeah, I'll see yins. And that was a twofer, where both said it. And I don't hear it anymore. I know we say that that's the way people speak here, but I think it is slowly dying. It must be dying. Do you hear it, Jess? Huh? You hear it all the time?
I say it.
Oh, you say it? Jess says yins? Do you?
Yeah.
Well, stop it.
My whole family.
Okay, she comes from a bunch of yinsers, and they all say yins. I guess it's okay. I mean, I don't know why I say stop it. I mean, it is a regional-ism. It is it yuns or yins? What? Yins. Okay. Okay. You've never said it around me. Do you clean up your act when you're around me? Do you only use it around family? Oh, so there'd be no reason to ever, okay. Since we're only here together, there wouldn't be reason to say yins. But so with me, you would say you.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that some people say yins when they're talking to one person.
Oh,
Well, Jess finds that appalling.
It's
Excuse me while I drink. Okay, horror story of the day. out of the great state of Kansas, under the general heading, The Republican War Against Women. There is a bill. You know, just when you think that it can't get more absurd. Here, listen to this. There is a bill making its way through the Kansas legislature, all Republican legislature pretty much, and it is a bill that the governor, one Brownback, former senator, has said he will sign, that does the following. This bill would levy a sales tax on women who have abortions, including women who have abortions because of rape and because they need to end what would be a life-threatening pregnancy. Sorry you were raped, but if you want that procedure, you're going to pay 6.3% more than anybody else. And also, this is the state, by the way, that that removed abortion coverage from health insurance plans in general. I mean, you can go to Kansas, and believe me, if you ever think you might have an abortion, you've got to buy special insurance for that. But that's not even the worst of it, the sales tax part. Listen to this. And there's no way this can be constitutional, if you ask me, but then what do I know? Among other provisions are measures that would allow doctors to withhold medical information from women that might encourage them to seek an abortion. In other words, okay, let's say the doc's there, the woman's having an ultrasound, and the doc can see that the baby is seriously handicapped, will live maybe a few months in agony and pain, and whatever. The doctor does not have to tell the woman that, according to this legislation, because the doctor knows that if you tell probably most women that they would decide, not only for themselves, but for the child they're carrying, to let it go. And, making it even worse, not only would doctors be allowed to withhold medical information from women that might make them want to have an abortion, but if the woman or the resulting child then suffers a health complication as a result of this information being withheld, the doctor could not be sued for malpractice. Okay, the only way the woman gets to sue the doctor in this bill is if she dies. If the woman dies as a result of the withheld information, then she can sue. You can't make this stuff up. And here's one. Here's a statement that's absolutely factually incorrect. This is mind-boggling. The bill also would require doctors to tell women that abortion causes breast cancer. And that the moon is made of green cheese. Language in the bill would also potentially jeopardize the accreditation of the OBGYN residency program at the University of Kansas Medical Center. I bet. Because how could you be an accredited institution in a state that does not allow you to deal with reality? What? I mean, do they have to teach that abortion causes breast cancer in the OB/GYN program, which then might result, of course, in the lack of accreditation of the entire facility? Anyway, as I said, Governor Sam Brownback has said, I will sign that bill if it reaches my desk. You gotta wonder. I mean, you really do have to wonder about this death wish that Republicans seem to have. I can see where they could say to themselves, let's go after the blacks to excite our base because, the blacks don't vote for us anyway. Let's go after, gays, because the gays don't vote for us anyway, although an amazing number do. Let's go after those illegal immigrants because, first of all, they shouldn't be voting, and anyway, they don't. Then the Hispanics tend not to necessarily vote for us too, so to heck with them. Because they always need something like this. They need to divide and conquer. That's the way they've always worked. To whip up their base that seems only to get excited when they're enraged. I mean, enraged. Anger is what works for them. And self-righteousness. So now, they're first of all, just staying there for a second. Fox News had a poll the other day that said that Hispanic voters, and I'm not sure if it was just Hispanic voters in Texas or maybe it was nationally, prefer Obama 6-1 over Romney. Let us recall that Hispanic voters are the largest growing demographic in the nation, which brings us back to this Republican death wish. Now, in their infinite wisdom this year, they've decided to go after women. Women! The titular philosopher king of their party, Rush Limbaugh, has essentially called all women sluts and prostitutes. He has suggested that if we want birth control, we should put our sex lives up on a video for men to enjoy. This is a party that wants women to vote Republican? And you look at this Kansas statute. This is a party that wants doctors to withhold information to women about their own medical condition. This is a party said that the only way a woman could sue that doctor is if she dies. Who the hell do they think is going to vote for them? There aren't enough angry white men around for them to win. They only will win in states where I guess the women are brainwashed or so. I don't. I'm so. It's not confused. I'm almost I'm fascinated by watching this self-destruction of a once great party. And you have to go back some ways to get to that once great party. But there are two Republican presidents that I would like to cite. Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president, and Teddy Roosevelt. I'll throw in a few, maybe, I'll give Ike a pass. But really, good God, And there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal today that suggests that there's a great danger in the Republicans doing this anti-college thing that they're into right now, because the majority of voters, guess what? Have college educations. Are they all snobs? And even the ones that don't have college educations probably would like their children to have a college education. So there go some more voters. And as the Journal points out, the bizarre thing is that this current crop of Republican potential nominees is the most educated and diplomaed group ever. From Ron Paul with his MD, to Newt Gingrich with his doctorate, to Mitt Romney with his MBA degree and his law degree, both from Harvard, to Rick Santorum with an MBA and a law degree. These guys got more degrees than Obama, than I do. And they call him a snob and suggest that he is looking down his nose. And it's pointed out that Santorum wandering around the country trying to act like he's the, like out of a blue-collar background. What bull? What total bull? Rick Santorum's father had a PhD. That's more of an education than my dad had. And his mother was a clinical psychologist. And yet he wants to... Where's this idea come from that he's somehow some, little blue-collar working-class kid with his doctorate daddy and his working clinical psychologist mom? Ah, yes, the dead grandfather with the big hands in the coffin. His grandfather was an immigrant. My grandfather was an immigrant. And guess what? Yeah, immigrants... Those immigrant grandfathers, they worked their tails off. Why? So that their children could go to college and not have to work with their hands. It's really fascinating to watch this Republican Party do its thing right now, which is essentially in some way making everybody else in the country defensive. I'm supposed to be defensive that I went to college. I'm supposed to be defensive. Gays defensive, immigrants defensive, Hispanics defensive, college-educated people defensive, blacks, big time defensive. Unbelievable. Death wish. Unbelievable. Okay, if I say unbelievable one time, let's take a break.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual summer camp preview is available now. Pick up one today for A Streetcar Named Desire, The Blues Brothers Review, and Mo. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. Studies prove that reading to a child regularly dramatically improves reading skills. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are 4 times as likely to graduate. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Communities improve. The path to success starts long before graduation day. And the difference between a graduate and a dropout could be you. Be a reader, tutor, or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org now. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Kristen has sent me something funny. in this is in regards to my little mini rant about WPXI, their inability to introduce any story without bragging that they were first. Whether, like I'm going to go check. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. I wonder if they even, does another station ever, take them to account for it? And for all I know, the other stations do too, but I don't think I've ever heard of the consistency. So Kristen points out that on Wednesday of this week, WPXI, doing its usual thing in the morning, announced, and you'll not hear this anywhere else. WPXI has learned that Hines Ward has signed with the Baltimore Ravens.
No.
See, Jess, that's what PXI reported. It isn't true.
No.
No!
God.
No! But that's what this desire to be first does. They fell for a joke from a group called BroCouncil.com that had a picture of Ward in a Ravens jersey saying he had signed a $9 million contract. And if, rather than rushing out to say they were first with this news and you won't hear it anywhere else, which certainly is true, if they'd read the whole thing, they would have seen it was obviously a joke, because the same report had a quote, supposedly, from Art Rooney saying, Pittsburgh Steelers football may not be the same without him, but his smile was pretty creepy anyway. Now, anybody reading that would know, oh, well, wait a minute here. This is like The Onion or something. This isn't true. But no, there was PXI morning anchor Todd McDermott. You won't hear this anywhere else. No, you heard it first here on WPXI that Hines Ward has. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that's what that mentality will eventually get you. And, I thank, I had read that and forgot about it. I thank you for reminding me of it. Hang on, I just want to catch up with your email. So thanks, Kristen. Diane says she has a solution. Lynn, she says, animal friends and the Humane Society always have free neutering clinics. I say we find a urologist and start lining up every man who endorses this kind of nonsense that the Republicans are spewing. Any woman who would vote for a Republican should have to turn in her vagina. Okay. Anything else here that I can share? No, I don't think. Oh boy, what else do I have for you that will... Did you see? Okay, so Chelsea Wagner, you know, she was a member of the House, the state House, and then she lost her district because so many people, for some reason, vote Republican, and then the Republican-controlled legislature redid the boundaries, and her district went kaplooey. And anyway, she moved up. She became the Allegheny County Controller in January because, after all, she's from one of those dynastic families in the area. And any, I don't know if she's good or not. I've never met the woman. She might be very good at what she does, but you know, there it is. So I guess there's some, because all these things have been redistricted, there needs to be new elections held. There has to be an election held for whatever. I don't understand any of this. Anyway, listen to this. So the Democrats, the state Democratic leaders, have endorsed a Democrat to take that seat that represents the South Hills. His name, I don't know, some of you might know him, sounds familiar, Marty Schmatzer of Whitehall. This is the guy who they all just think is the grandest. He will be running in a special election on April 24th. I bring this up only because probably the last time Marty Schmatzer's name was in the news, it was because he apparently embezzled $50,000 while he was working at the Allegheny County Clerk of Court's office. I say apparently because he never went to trial. Here's what happened. He was accused of somehow taking $50,000. I believe what he did was he just, I don't know how this kind of thing can happen, but he made out two checks, each for $25,000, to a friend of his, who then, I guess, cashed them and gave the money to him. And he used the $50,000. That's your money, my money. He used the $50,000 to pay gambling debts and to pay for some daycare for his kids and to pay down his mortgage and, of course, to make some political contributions. For some reason, he was never charged. He resigned when the $50,000 was found missing, and he repaid the money. And because he'd done that, they said, okay, Marty, it's cool. We'll keep you out of jail. We won't press charges. Give us back the $50,000. Somehow he found $50,000 someplace else, paid it back, and went on his way. This was in 1997. He's back. And he's not only back, but he's back with the backing of the Democratic Party. Says here in the Post-Gazette, he's an affable man. In other words, he's a nice guy. Everybody likes Marty. And he's very well known in Democratic circles, and they like him. And he comes from a politically connected family, and that's all you need. This is why he never went to jail. So if you took $50,000, hey, Jess, if you wrote two $25,000 checks of money that wasn't yours, you think the guys upstairs would say, oh, it's okay, we won't bring charges. As a matter of fact, come back in 10 years and I'll promote you to something even better. There is something so repulsive, I'm sorry, guys, about politics around here. And this state, this part of the state. And maybe, I think only people who've come from someplace else that's not as corrupt only people like that maybe notice it. Because if this is the way it's always been, I don't think you do. Ha! Oh, Chris, I was wondering about that. Chris writes, hey, good old Marty Schmatzer is the brother of that annoying John Schmatzer who owns Metropolitan Windows. We stand on. Is that the one? Yeah. Is that him and his robot wife doing the commercials for their company? Well, whatever. That's one of those really annoying commercials. Unbelievable, Chris writes, that they can put him in some kind of political office. Well, he's connected. And that's all that matters. Okay, time for a final break. Quickie. We'll be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on tickets to the ballet, opera, City Theater, Science Center, Symphony, History Museum, and the Carnegie. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. bergbargains.com.
Sewickley Med Spa is Pittsburgh's newest med spa, offering the latest in skincare treatments and medical-grade skincare products. Their providers have years of experience with aesthetic treatments and technologies such as Botox, Restylance, Juvederm, chemical peels, Retin-A, and spider vein treatments. They offer a discreet, personalized environment with only the best quality proven services and products. Call them today for a free consultation. 412-259-8628. The Sewickley Med Spa. 412-259-8628.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All right, what else do I have for you? Good Lord. Working for Rupert Murdoch could be injurious to your mental health, certainly, and to your health in general. Apparently, two pretty high up journalists, it says here, in his company in London say that... Two of his employees at News International tried to kill themselves in the last week. They have not been identified. Murdoch is paying for their hospital expenses. Their attempts to take their own lives, according to Reuters, was the result of the pressures from the corruption inquiries that are going on there and the phone hacking investigation that is going on there. And other journalists inside Murdoch's headquarters in England have said that morale, of course, is terrible, that many people are on the edge. And it has been told, they have all been told, that the company is offering psychiatric help to any employee who feels the pressure. They don't want them jumping out of windows. They want to give them, so anyway, whatever. So they... Wow. I thought some of my jobs were stressful. Unbelievable. So keep that in mind, and don't work for Rupert Murdoch if you can help it, I guess, is what I wanted to say. Hey, I came upon this, and this is fascinating. It was to me because I'd never heard of it. You know, you think of all those history classes you took, and what always annoyed me about history classes in grade school and then into middle school and high school is they always just kept covering the same stuff. Every year you started back with a damn Pilgrims, and then before the year ended, you were usually barely at World War I, and you were like desperately trying to get anywhere near to what you understood as history. I don't recall ever getting to World War II. I don't ever remember it. Then you go to one of the indoctrination mills known as college. And because they are indoctrination mills, you find out that everything you had learned in your factory public schools was incorrect. And that is where you are disabused of all the kind of mythology that passes as history in elementary education. I've often told the story of how I was picking up my kid. I wasn't picking him up. I had volunteered to help in his kindergarten class one day. And so I was helping some little kid with something. And the teacher was talking, had all the other little kids sitting on the floor around her. And I overheard her say, because I was really my attention was on, some things just sort of leap out at you. I overheard her say the following phrase. So, when Abraham Lincoln chopped down that cherry tree. What? And I thought, oh my God! And there's all these little kids looking up at her like, wide-eyed and learning that Abraham Lincoln chopped down a cherry tree. And he could not tell a lie. And I didn't say anything. It was my job to question her credibility with the kids. And I thought about it later as I was walking home, sort of distraught that this is my kid's teacher. That I thought, well, wait a minute. First of all, it's kindergarten. Second of all, I don't think George Washington ever chopped down a cherry tree either. That's the odds are. These are one of those mythological stories to tell you what a grand guy George was, that he cut down a cherry tree, and when his father asked, who cut down that tree, he said, I cannot tell a lie. All I did. Do you really think that story's true? Every lie has a grain of truth? I don't know. For all I know, Abraham Lincoln cut down a cherry tree. He cut down trees. He was the rail splitter. Yeah. We know Lincoln had his hands on a hatchet. We know that. I might even be willing to argue that in a case, in a court case. She might have had it right. So when Abraham Lincoln cut down that cherry tree, you just remember that. So anyway, when I got to college and found that half of what I've been told about causes of the Civil War and this and that and blah, 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 and World War II and World War I, it was just wrong. It was so much more complex. It was so much more complicated. I got very annoyed. But you don't hear about a lot of history. It never makes it. And a lot of the history that never makes it, I'll tell you what never makes it. Labor history. Did you ever learn about the Homestead Steel Strike? Now, maybe if you lived around here, you did. I'd never heard about that. I'd never heard about, unions, and never, till I got to college. And I remember when I first drove in to Pittsburgh to live, and I was following the directions I was given, and I was getting off at the Squirrel Hill exit of the Parkway East, and there was a sign that said Homestead. And it jogged this, long-lost memory in my head, and I thought, Homestead? Oh, my gosh. You mean that place with that horrific massacre is like right over there? But no, you have very, very little history, believe me. So here, I learned about this by reading the arts section of the New York Times the other day. There is a musical that's getting ready to hit Broadway, and it's called Newsies. Newsies. Okay, there was a bad movie made of it. You think it was a good movie?
Great movie.
Oh, okay, a good. Okay, okay. It was a Disney movie, though, I think, right? No. Apparently now they are making this into a musical, and it's a musical about. I never heard of this, so I guess if you saw the movie, you would have known it. Oh wait, Raymond's got something on Marty Schmatzer. Lynn, I knew this guy years ago. His mother was the controversial and crazy mayor of Dormont. Okay, thank you, Ray. Yes, it did say in the paper that, the embezzler's mom was the mayor. I mean, but that's why I say it comes from a connected family. So back to Newsies. There was a newsboy strike in 1899. Okay? So, you know, that they read all about it, you know, extra, extra. Those little boys with their cute little caps and all that. They were street urchins. These were kids that were often orphaned. They slept in stairwells. These kids were, or they were the children of immigrants desperate for a few extra pennies. But there was these little kids actually went on strike. Kids, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids. They organized a strike against the biggest news media. It was like striking against Rupert Murdoch. They struck Joseph Pulitzer's papers, and they struck William Randolph Hearst's papers. Why? Because those two rich SOBs were just, for pennies, we're shafting these kids. And whether they won the strike or not, was the movie make it seem like they won the
You
strike?
have to see the movie.
Huh?
You have to see the movie.
Okay, I'll have to see the movie.
Christian Bale's in it.
Okay, Christian, yes, I did say a young Christian Bale is in it. But they were striking for 1 penny, essentially. 1 penny more. And I don't know about this, and they say that the musical really plays fast and loose with history. So it's not the place to get the history. But the other newspapers, you know, reported on it because there were so many newspapers at the time. So, you know, the New York Herald went nuts, you know, trumpeting them because these newsboys were really putting it to Hearst and Pulitzer. And there was a kid who pretty much was the head of it, and his name was Kid Blink. I think he had one bad eye. The names of some of these kids, there was Kid Blink, also known as Red Blink, also known as Muggsy McGee. There were kids named, some of these names are so cute. Why can't I find any of them? But they actually ended up, because there was somebody who had been a newsboy who ended up being in Tammany Hall, and his name was Dry Dollar Sullivan. I love this. And he rented out a big hall for the boys to have a rally. And there were 2,000 newsboys at the rally. There were 3,000 or more newsboys outside the building who couldn't get in. It was that huge. And these little kids, they took the stage, you know. So Muggsy McGee, Kid Blink, gets up there. And here's how part of what he said. It's reported. It was reported. I'm trying to figure out how 10 cents on 100 papers can mean more to a millionaire than it does to a newsboy. I can't see it. There it is. There again is the 99 and the 1, right? This kid's saying, how could this penny that I'm striking for mean anything to Hearst or Pulitzer? How? From the mouths of babes. So they hurt Pulitzer and Hearst. Their circulation went kaput, and Pulitzer was being told that these kids are being successful. And what happened finally is that a compromise was struck. They finally met with them. Can you imagine? They met with these little dirty urchins. And the kids really, as one would not be surprised to hear, did not get really what they were wanting. They still didn't get their penny. But what they got is that if they didn't sell all the newspapers they had, Pulitzer and Hearst allowed them to turn those papers back in. They didn't used to. They had to swallow the... It is, when you hear how rich people get rich, I mean, and in this regard, quibbling over pennies with homeless children, it makes you want to weep. And to think now that the name Hearst is and Pulitzer, what do you think of? I mean, everybody and their mom would love to, have their obituary read Pulitzer Prize winner. So it has a positive connotation. But here's some of the names: Kid Blink, Crutchy Morris, Spot Conlon, Racetrack Higgins. Those are little boys, long gone now. But they said these bunch of dirty little kids from the tenements and from the streets actually did manage to alter the operations of two men powerful enough to influence presidential elections. Two of the most powerful men of the time. Anyway, coming soon to Broadway as a musical, and I guess, I have to see the movie, Newsies. Hey, thank you all for spending any or all of this time with me. I hope you all have a marvelous weekend, and I'll come back on Monday, and I'm going to keep doing this till I get it right, okay? Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.